Hello, damn nation. What a week it's been, and it's only Tuesday. Today, you can see by the title of the show, The New World Order. I don't normally spend a particular amount of time going over what is happening around the world. As I always say, my role has always been as, a person that analyzes uh, America, right, through our domestic policies and our situations. But I'm telling you that what is happening with this new world order, this orientation of America that has us no longer being the good guys. And now I say that, folks, I say it with a lot of, caveats. Like I want you to hear that with a lot of caveats. We know that America has done and continues to do dirt around the world. And that if you were to ask, right, other nations about their opinions about the United States, they would talk about bombings and torture and extraction and all of these things. That being said, all of those things being true, the consistent narrative around America is that we have been, right, the beacon of democracy. And that is no longer the case. And so today I'm going to spend a part of the Danielle Moodie show talking about and running down where we are in terms of this new world order. It's also Town Hall Tuesday, so save your questions for the end of the show. All right, friends, let's get into it. So much to cover, so much to do. So much to cover, so much to do because my God, like every day feels like 67. And, it's like that meme that we see, from the Titanic where the woman is old and decrepit. Like every morning when I look at myself I feel like it's been 87 years. Like that's how I feel. And I'm like, it's fucking Tuesday. And I need to remind myself about that. And as we get into it, dear friends, if you are new here, please do like, comment, and hit the subscribe button. It helps us in the algorithms and get into people's feeds. So do like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're new, welcome to Damnation. I'm glad to have you. So let's get into it, shall we? This is America's new friends. This is who our friends are now, right? Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin. I am not too old, right, to remember a time when the United States was looked at, revered even, for our ability over this nearly 250-year project to be able to preserve democracy, to be able to have free, fair elections, right? To live inside of a country where our votes mattered, where the politicians largely, right? We disagreed with them. I mean, Donald Trump makes the Bushes look like fucking Mary Poppins nowadays, but you would have disagreements, right? But we still believed, I still believed, even as much disdain as I held for, let's say, George W. Bush, I never thought that he was unpatriotic or anti-American or hated America or Americans. I never thought, like it didn't occur to me, because you run for the highest office in the land. You do so because you believe that you possess the characteristics that are able to carry this country and its 330 million plus occupants into the future, right? That you pledge to be a public servant And that means putting a hand on the Bible and honestly taking an oath to the American people, but to the Constitution. It never occurred to me when I was going to school, an undergrad, for political science that I would ever know firsthand what it means to live inside of a backsliding democracy, what it means, right? Like how to orient myself around the fact that America isn't a democracy anymore. On all the things that I thought would happen in my lifetime, that was not on my life's bingo card. And so if you, like me, lack the imagination to believe that at one time in our life's journey inside of this country that a person would be elected who showed such disdain and disgust and contempt for America and our values and the Constitution, and that he would realign with powers that we were taught from yay high to never associate with. If you knew nothing, right, in this country about history, if you knew nothing, what is the one thing you knew? Russia equals bad. Right? Like that's would be the one thing that you knew. You understood the Cold War and you understood like who our friends, allies were in the world. Well, if you remember, folks, in 2021, the United States, for the first time in our nearly 250-year project, was added to the list of backsliding democracies. Quote, visible deterioration in the U.S. civil liberties began in at least 2019, says international think tank, the IDA. I want to read you this portion because it was a report that was released back in 2021. So this is after Donald Trump's first term. We then see this report come out, and that should have sent signals, alarm bells out into our democratic structure to say, oh shit. Not just have a sigh of relief over the fact that Biden had won the election and had just been sworn in. No, that instead, what do we do at this moment in our history and in time to make sure that America doesn't continue the backslide? This is where the lack of imagination and strategy failed us on the side of Democrats. It's why I say that we are here in this moment in our history because not only because of the MAGA Republican cult, but because of Democrats' inability to honestly guide and lead in the moment when we most needed them, to be able to see a future that possibly could reelect a fascist. So this is what Alexander Hudson, co-author of the report, said. And this was back in 2021. He said, quote, the United States is a high-performing democracy and even improved its performance in indicators of impartial administration, corruption, and predictable enforcement in 2020. However, the declines in civil liberties and checks on government indicate that there are serious problems with the fundamentals of democracy. The report says, quote, a historic turning point came in 2020 to 21 when former President Donald Trump questioned the legitimacy of the 2020 election results in the United States. In addition, Hudson pointed to a, quote, decline in the quality of freedom of association and assembly during the summer of protests in 2020, after the police killing of George Floyd. International IDA bases its assessments on 50 years of democratic indicators in about 160 countries, assigning them to 3 categories: democracies, including those that are backsliding, hybrid governments, and authoritarian regimes. So when they put this report together, it wasn't just that Donald Trump was calling into question the legitimacy of our election that he squarely lost. It was also the treatment that protesters in this country were facing. If you remember, Donald Trump utilized police and military law enforcement to clear Lafayette Square forcefully so that he could take a picture in front of a church he doesn't attend holding a Bible he damn sure has never read. And he had General Milley out there in his regalia, who later said, of course, in his book, that he was duped at the time and never would have met Donald Trump in Lafayette Square if, in fact, he had known that he was being used in a photographic stunt. So, folks, this is information that readily became available to us, to our leaders, back in 2020 and 2021. And I continue to say that we had 4 years as Donald Trump announced he never left the world stage. He'd never stopped campaigning. That when he officially announced that he was going to be seeking re-election again, alarm bells should have gone off throughout Biden's administration and throughout our government agencies, thinking about the worst case scenario and fucking planning for it. That's what we needed. We needed for Democrats to say, you know what? Here's our Hail Mary plan. I pray to God we never have to use this, because the American people will come to their senses and not re-elect a man that tried to overthrow the government. But when people continue to tell me, like, oh, what would you want Democrats to do? I wanted you to think. I wanted you to think about what happens if all of the things that they were saying out loud on every podcast, on every right-wing station, what would happen if those things came through? What guardrails could we put in place? What conversations can we be having? How do we orient and organize if we lose power? I don't understand. I don't understand how they didn't think in that manner. So, fast forward, here we arrive at this week where US sides with Russia at UN on Ukraine vote in stunning move. India abstains. The United Nations General Assembly on Monday adopted 2 resolutions on Russia's war in Ukraine. In a stark shift from its long-standing foreign policy, the United States, along with Russia and other allies, voted on Monday against a United States resolution backed by most of Europe, demanding Russia's withdrawal from Ukraine. and condemning the war. Meanwhile, India abstained from voting. Because we also know that India's government is pretty fucked as well. This was the first time the US voted. Again, think about this sentence. Don't just, let it just pass by. Like, let it land on you for a moment. This is the first time the US voted in alignment with Russia since the start of the Ukraine-Russia war. I mean, it is breathtaking. And earlier today, if you watched Mary Trump's Nerd Avengers, which I was on with our friends, my co-host of Democracy Ish, Wajahat Ali, Dahlia Lithwick, and Mary and I, Dahlia said, America is now the bullies. Like, we are the bullies in the world. Like, we are not to be trusted. And that is something that hits, like, that is something that needs in some way to be grieved, except we don't have the time for grief. So the article goes on to say that while the US sided with Russia, Israel, North Korea, and 14 other Moscow-aligned nations in opposing the resolution condemning Russian aggression in Ukraine and demanding the return of occupied territory, the resolution was overwhelmingly approved by the UN General Assembly with 93 votes in favor, 18 against, us being one of the 18, and 65 abstentions. Breathtaking. Because I said this yesterday on the show when speaking about the results of Germany's elections and what the chancellor in waiting, Friedrich Merz, said. He said that we, Germany, but Europe, need to become independent from the United States. Not only are they no longer our allies, but they are also becoming our adversaries. This dark, shaded image of Trump and Putin, this is the new world order. Merz nailed it when he said, and I said it back in 2017 when Donald Trump was openly playing footsies with Putin after Hillary Clinton had warned us and told us during that debate, he is Putin's puppet. But for whatever reason, the world can't hear when women speak. Apparently, it's like some type of dog whistle. If you can hear me, clap once. The fact is, no one should be surprised because we were indeed warned, friends. We were warned. And here we are. And so I fear that this is going to get absolutely worse. And I've been saying this, right? That America's situation, both domestically and internationally, we are going to be isolated. And if European nations are smart, they will band together and turn their backs on America. They will begin to see America as the enemy of democracy that it has become. And they will begin to think about America in the same way they think about Russia and China. We will no longer have our alliances that we've had for nearly 80 years. The trade agreements, the open borders, the open relationships that we have had for nearly 80 years post World War II. And don't take my word for it. Historian Anne Applebaum, who is a writer at The Atlantic and a Pulitzer Prize winning writer at that, an author, she said that this alignment, right, is the beginning of a disaster. U.S. foreign policy has for about 80 years been based on a network of alliances and institutions that allowed the country to project power, to create zones of prosperity, to enjoy trade with like-minded partners, Applebaum said, noting that it extended mainly to Europe, but also worked with Asia. Trump is effectively signaling that he's no longer interested in hearing from European allies, Applebaum said, and that he's aligning with a power that is a daily threat to Europe. Because you see, we have to understand the goal here. And this is why Donald Trump has his own fixation on manifest destiny, his own fixation on recolonizing the globe. His talks about making Canada the 51st state, his talks about purchasing or invading Greenland, his talks about taking over the Panama Canal. Donald Trump wants to own the Americas. And in that deal, I believe that he is saying to Putin, in no uncertain terms, you get Europe. You get to rebuild the USSR, your dream that you've had since its fall. I'm not going to stand in your way, is essentially what this vote signaled. Donald Trump, the thing is, he is not bullying and threatening Putin in the same way he has Trudeau, in the same way that he has Sheinbaum in Mexico. No, he doesn't go after the quote unquote big dogs. He's aligning with where he sees power, not where he sees alliances or community. It's if he can, with the help of continued help, I should say, of Putin, take the Americas, North America, Central America, South America, and then throw in, and Putin says, all right, and with that deal, I take over Europe and I'll throw in Greenland, which is what the broligarchs want. Go back and check out one of my shows with regard to the broligarchy and why they have had their eyes on Greenland because of its mineral richness, the minerals that they need in order to expand their AI race. But you see, Greenland in their constitution doesn't allow for that kind of extraction. So how do you get it? Buy it or invade it. Ukraine falls. Europe begins to fall with it. And that is the fucking goal here. World war. Applebaum goes on in this interview to say, she notes that there are frequent incidents of sabotage in the Baltic Sea and almost daily cyber attacks across the continent from Russian hacking groups. Quote, by doing that, Trump is saying, I don't care anymore about alliances. I'm not interested in your opinions. I'm going to do a deal with this dictator over your head, Applebaum said. And that's a message that is heard not just in every European capital, but in every allied capital around the planet as a sign that the US is changing. And I would argue it's not changing, it has changed. It is morphing into a hollowed out version of itself where our democratic principles no longer stand. Donald Trump right now is defying court orders to lift the freeze, the federal freeze that he put in place vis-a-vis one of his first executive orders. We have to understand, folks, that the rule of law is essentially an agreement that we have in this country. Laws are set, we follow them. You break them, that becomes problematic, except when the president breaks the law, which Donald Trump has said, has echoed Napoleon and said the president can't break the law when it's considered benefiting the country. So if he continues to ignore federal judges, well, guess what, folks? They don't have their own law enforcement. They don't have their own military. So what's the recourse? Remember, too, Donald Trump was given presidential immunity through the Supreme Court. What I see on the horizon, and I have said this for a decade now, what I see on the horizon for America is violence at the hands of the government. If they can't get the courts to agree with them, all they have to do is simply ignore the courts. And if you can ignore the courts in this action, when they start doing some real fuckery at the hands of the military, which they are purging, at the hands of the FBI, which they are purging, the CIA, remind you, those people took a pledge to the Constitution to uphold it. They are being purged. Thousands of public servants are gone. More continue to resign, which we'll get to in a moment. The rule of law no longer exists if the president of the United States is able to just brush off a judgment by federal judges and there be no recourse. This is the danger that we are now living in. It is not the potential thereof. We are here now. Moving forward, Donald Trump also met with Macron, my best French accent that I can do. And in this meeting, Macron tried to convince Donald Trump that we must preserve Ukraine's autonomy and sovereignty. Donald Trump in this meeting, I mean, look at him. Doesn't he just look like shit? Like, honestly, let us just take a petty moment, shall we? Doesn't he look like crap? I mean, next to that man as well, like, you couldn't gather yourself, you couldn't get yourself together in no kind of way. Nonetheless, So in this meeting now, this is what Macron says. We want peace. He wants peace. He that he is speaking of is Putin. Putin don't want no peace. Like, so, bro, like, that's not it. Said of his counterpart as he stood next to Trump, we want peace, peace swiftly, but we don't want an agreement that is weak. This peace must not mean a surrender of Ukraine, he said. Trump, meanwhile, offered no mention of security guarantees when it was his turn to speak at Monday's joint news conference. Instead, he portrayed himself as a master negotiator in search of a deal. Let us be clear. As I continue to say, Donald Trump is not interested in a deal that does not give Putin exactly what it is that he wants. Putin wants Ukraine. It is the first in his recolonization of Europe. He gets that, and the rest just become easier from there. This is what Applebaum was saying. The geopolitical fuck shit that is happening, folks. I mean, can we take a moment that in our lifetime, we will have seen a global health pandemic and possibly a world war. And let us just be clear. What we all know is that if there is World War III, we ain't making it out, okay? Because everybody got nukes. So that's my face today. So let us now go back to the United States, this crumbling dumpster. Protests continue to happen. 21 federal technology workers resign in protests of Elon Musk's Doge, which I fucking hate saying the name of this made up stupid fucking agency, but there we are. And this is what they said in their letter, their resignation letter. Quote, "We swore to serve the American people and uphold our oath to the Constitution across presidential administrations." The joint resignation letter obtained by USA Today reads, and this is the point. However, it has become clear that we can no longer honor those commitments at the United States Doge service. So they're out. 21 workers. And just to be clear, these are not Elon Musk, as Mary Trump referred to them earlier today, and I'm going to steal it from her. These are not Elon Musk's incel babies. These were technology workers who were a holdover, right, throughout the administration since the rollout for healthcare.gov was kind of a mess. And they were hired, right? And they have stayed on and to be of that service in the tech capacity. And then Donald Trump comes in, right? Musk comes in, and they rename the agency that they were working for to United States Doge Service. So these are not the people. This is not the incel group that has pledged allegiance to Elon Musk. That's why their joint, their group resignation is something that is necessary. And so I'm of two minds of this. I'm of two minds of this with these resignations that are coming. One, no one should be forced to work in a hostile, traumatic work environment. And that is exactly what Musk and Trump have created. They are at war with public servants, people that literally take less pay. They could make more money in the public sector, but have decided to dedicate their lives to public service to advance our democracy and our country. And so I'm like, you know what? All y'all should fucking quit. Every single one and every single agency. This shit is on fire anyway. What's the point in having a Dixie cup with a little bit of water trying to put out, right, the inferno that we're in? Save yourself, get out. Then on the other hand, we know who's taken over these jobs. The didn't earn it MAGA sycophants. They're DEI folks that probably don't know how to turn on a light switch are now going to be in charge of these complicated layered positions. Because they don't need to produce resumes. They just need to say blindly, oh, Donald Trump won the election and he was wrongfully, condemned for it. That's it. Then, folks, there's this situation that happened in Idaho. Lord, let me tell you so much about this photo. First off, just take a look at the photo. And look at these plainclothes white men, black shirts, right? I guess they traded in their red hats. I'm looking up her name. I forgot her first name. Teresa Borenfall is at an Idaho town hall in a Republican district, fucking asking questions, yelling out. That's what people do at a town hall. And these men, no one knew who they were working for. Are you law enforcement? Are you not? Are you with the sheriff? Are you not? Folks in the chat are saying this is some KGB shit. This is some Gestapo shit. The fuck? Yes. Yes, it is. When just, unmarked vans can roll up on you on the street and scoop you up and then, you're detained. Detained by whom? She said, while it was happening, she's like, who are you? Who are you? What is your badge number? Who are you? And they're telling her, don't resist, relax. And she's like, that's what rapists say. The fuck I'm going to relax and not resist for? I don't know. She said, I didn't know if I was being arrested or being kidnapped. And people just like stood around. You see them in the background. These white women like, I don't know, I guess, this is what we do now. So, I mean, they were dragging her across the floor, twisting and contorting her body in a way that her shirt nearly came off. A friend of hers, Alicia Abbott, a friend of Borenfall's, who organized a GoFundMe on her behalf, said that Borenfall has bruises from the incident. I would imagine she does, with 3 grown-ass men twisting and contorting your body, dragging you across the fucking floor. They have no identifiable badges on them, which means that who you suing? Her friend says, who were these people to detain Teresa in the first place? This is not the first time we've seen this kind of security presence in public meetings or town halls. If they're going to be detaining people, do they even have knowledge of the law? Here's another basic fucking question. Are they trained to remove people safely? Folks, you see people being zip tied in public protests all the time on Capitol Hill. You see that happening, right? The police using zip ties, putting you into a van. They are trained. This private militarized group, this private police force, what do we know about them? Things are coming out now that they are part of like a business operation that Trump owns, that they were loosely affiliated with this sheriff. If this is not some Gestapo style shit that is going to become more of the norm in these United States. And now we are moving into a place, or have already moved into a place, where people just stand by and look. I mean, they take video, right? They take photos. But that's about it. And I don't know if you saw other news today. That little bobblehead of a press secretary that they got has said that the White House correspondents are no longer going to be in charge of who selects who is in the White House press corps. Not like, I mean, I don't really think that being in the White House press corps really matters anymore. I mean, what is the goal there? To have them be in person and lie directly to your face so then you can turn around and go to your outlets and then regurgitate the lie to the American public? Like, what's the point? What's the value? And people will say, no, we need to be in the room where it's happening. We need to be able to see these things as they unfold. Because if it's left to Fox, if it's left to whatever bro podcasters that they're going to have in place, do you think that they're going to be taking the pictures of, let's say, a Macron grabbing Trump's arm? Right? No, they're going to start altering that shit from the jump. So we're not going to be able to trust anything at all. And before I get out of here today, and I hope it plays, this is why real journalism is important. This is why diversity and experience, voice matters in this moment. This is why the firing of Joy Reid at MSNBC and the firing across the board of people of color, silencing Black voices, silencing Black thought, and people of color to just put in what? Smush them into ensembles and groups. This is why you all are here. Supporting independent media. Because it's the only place that you're going to go and get the fucking truth. White women ask me all the time, what can I do? What can I do? Do what fucking Rachel Maddow did last night, which is use her power, position, and her white privilege to speak truth to power, because they ain't going to fire her. She's their cash cow. To speak on what is happening here, because when Black people and people of color talk about racism, we're told that we're crying. We're just too sensitive. I posted this shit on Blue Sky. I wrote my piece on my Substack that I tell you all to, if you have not subscribed over there, subscribe to the Damn Digest on Substack that I just started about 2 weeks ago, I guess at this point. And use, right, your attention, because that's what they're after, are your eyeballs. So I hope that you watch Joy's last show. And then, as I said on my Substack, turn the TV off and support independent journalists.
All the other nights except for Mondays.
Rachel.
So that's a big change. An even bigger programming change is at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. Eastern, where Joy Reid's show, The Readout, ended tonight. And Joy is not taking a different job in the network. She is leaving the network altogether. And that is very, very, very hard to take. I am 51 years old. I have been gainfully employed since I was 12. And I have had so many different kinds of jobs, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. But in all of the jobs I have had, in all of the years I have been alive, there is no colleague for whom I have had more affection and more respect than Joy Reid. I love everything about her. I have learned so much from her. I have so much more to learn from her. I do not want to lose her as a colleague here at MSNBC. And personally, I think it is a bad mistake to let her walk out the door. It is not my call, and I understand that, but that's what I think. I will tell you, it is also unnerving to see that on a network where we've got two, count them, two non-white hosts in primetime, both of our non-white hosts in primetime are losing their shows, as is Katie Fang on the weekend. And that feels worse than bad, no matter who replaces them. That feels indefensible, and I do not defend it. But there's just one other piece of it that you should know. From your side of the TV screen, you will mostly see changes in terms of who's in the anchor chair. And actually, everybody who's going to be in anchor chairs from here on out are great colleagues and great at what they do, and you are not going to be disappointed in who's on our air and what you're going to be seeing. But one thing you cannot necessarily see is that the people who get our shows on the air, they're really being put through the ringer. Dozens of producers and staffers, including some who are among the most experienced and most talented and most specialist producers in the building, are facing being laid off. They're being invited to reapply for new jobs. That has never happened at this scale in this way before when it comes to programming changes, presumably because it's not the right way to treat people, and it's inefficient and it's unnecessary, and it kind of drops the bottom out of whether or not people feel like this is a good place to work, and so we don't generally do things that way. Maybe all of our folks, including most of the people who are getting this very show on the air right now, maybe they will all get new jobs here, and I hope they do. But in the meantime, being put in this kind of limbo, the anxiety and the discombobulation is off the charts at a time when this job already is extra stressful and difficult. It is not news for me to tell you that the press and freedom of the press are under attack in a way that is really, it's a big deal for our country. It's very visceral for us here. I know that the business of the press is not an easy thing, and I know that no job is forever. But I think I'm safe in saying for all of us anchors who you know through the TV, please know that what pains us the most is not what happens to us. It is what happens to our coworkers on whom we depend and who you don't necessarily know, but we respect and love them and depend on them. And did I mention we respect them?
That's leadership. That's what it means to put your neck out for Black women, people of color, your staff. That's what leadership looks like. And so when people say, oh, there's nothing that so-and-so can do, or people wanted to come at me on social media and say, oh, but Joy's ratings were not good. I'll tell you whose ratings were not good: Stephanie Rule, Nicole Wallace, Katie Tur. They were worse, and none of them lost their jobs. What pains me as well is that Joy Reid's staff is majority Black and brown. And they do not know if they will have jobs moving forward. And you see how Rachel said, this is not how you treat people. The new president of MSNBC seems very clearly to be moving in the same way Elon Musk is with Doge. Oh, you can go ahead and reapply for some rando job, even though you've been here for decades. I wrote on my Substack where I said, folks, it's time to turn the TV off. I shared my own experience over a decade of going on air at MSNBC. I know those producers and those booking agents and researchers. They believe in what they do and the quality that they put out. And they do not deserve to be treated in this manner. That's not leadership. That's some Musk level bullshit. And it should be called out.
You could speak directly to Elon Musk, what would you say?
Fuck off.
That's it.
That is my ending word. And God, do I love me some Jasmine Crockett. Because you know what? The gloves are off. We don't got to pretend no more. To be demure, to use euphemisms. If they have no gloves on, if they are lawless, if they have no care for the American people, for the Constitution, for the building that she was standing in front of, then fuck off. All right, friends, let us get in. I ran very long today, but I do want to give you an opportunity to get into our town hall. My apologies for how long this went. Let's get into it. Right question, capital letters. We'll go for about 10 minutes today. Let's go. All right, let's get going. Triple dose. Question. It seems Putin's regime since 1999 has worked nonstop to find weak points in the West and NATO, directly leading to Trump. Should this be a larger part of Dems' messaging war going forward? Yes, I 100% agree. Democrats clearly, right, as I say, and as you all know, do not have a messaging strategy at all. So should this be a part of it? 100%. Doug Ballard, question, what is to become of us? Doug, my dear, I do not know. I do not know. This is a question that keeps me up at night. I don't know what is to become of us. I don't know what is to become of us. And that's why I say community in this moment is important. Building out this space, which you all are helping me do with your comments, your likes, and your subscribing, so that we have safe space for as long as we have safe space. Daisy, can someone teach Democrats how to message, please? Part of my other job is helping people who want my assistance with their messaging, and they need more of it. Question, Edward. Trump has done one good thing. He is refusing more aid to Ukraine, but he needs to be removed. Do you agree that people of heterodox views need to form an alliance against Trump? Look, one, I don't believe that denying resources to Ukraine is a good idea. I don't think that hindering Ukraine's ability to maintain sovereignty is a good thing. And I believe that the United States, like I said at the top of the show, should be doing everything and anything that they can to ensure that Europe does not fall. But we are no longer aligned with our former allies. And so that is not the goal anymore. Question, Karen. Are the Republicans in Senate the only ones that can stop this? Karen, my friend, if we are relying on the Republicans in the Senate, who are we looking at? Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, right? The clutch their pearls. He'll learn his lesson, right? To find a conscience. Yes, they could stop it. All the Republicans could stop it and say, you know what? You either act according to the rule of law, right? We agree with you on all of your horrendous, disgusting policies, but like you need to do them in accordance with your power as president and not a dictator. They absolutely could do that. They have power. We have 3 branches of government. But do we think after a decade of Trumpism that all of a sudden they're going to wake up and have a conscience? I don't think so. They're in it to win it. So that is where we are. Question, Sherry. Danielle, will you please recruit Joy Reid to come join you, Mary and Waj on Mary Trump Media? She can't, she can continue her awesome spread of her messaging. Folks, Joy has her own Substack, which you all should subscribe to. My assumption is that I hope that she will build out her own independent media platform in the same way that Don Lemon did when he was fired after 21 years at CNN, that he started his YouTube page, that Jim Acosta, who was just fired after 20 years of being at CNN, is now using his Substack and immediately started doing interviews and building that out. So that is what I believe will happen here, because the outpouring of love, of messaging, of support by both Joy's colleagues in journalism, but also the audiences, tells me that that's a pivot she can and will most likely make. But would I love to interview her? Yeah, totes would. At any point. Question, does anyone know who Amy Gleason is? Doja's saying that she's running the shit show. Ooh, well, DJ, we're going to have to look into that, because I do not know who Amy Gleason is. And I will look that up. Or while we're going through the questions, if somebody can do a little Google, drop it in the chat. Alex, question. I know this may be a small act, but is it time to fly our American flag upside down en masse, perhaps on Flag Day and the 4th of July, if not every day? Look, I think that any which way that you can find to show that you are resisting, and you want to do that, then go forward. Organize your folks. I think that that's any form of resistance to me is a good one. Just figure out what your resistance looks like. I do know that there are people, though, that live in very red areas, and maybe flying their flag upside down or putting up protest signs could attract violence to them. So that is something that folks need to consider as well. That is unfortunately the world that we're living in. Looking for more questions. Courtney, what do you think is the most effective way to entice, influence friends and family to think more like we do? My strategy of using facts, common sense, only ends up in arguments. You keep pushing, right? And maybe it isn't about you just telling them, right? You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Ask them to explain why, what is it about Donald Trump right now and the actions that he's taken that you see as a benefit? I don't see the benefit, so I want to understand what you are seeing. Maybe I'm missing something. Give them the opportunity to actually explain, as opposed to, and this is because you're saying that these are your friends and your family, and I'm assuming you want to keep those relationships. So in a less judgmental, less angry fashion, like I couldn't do it, for instance, but in a less angry fashion, and a less judgmental fashion, just be like, what is it that inspires you about Donald Trump? Like what is it that he has done over these past, 30 plus days, that signals to you that America is going to be well? And say, I legitimately am trying to understand. I want to understand your point of view. I have a point of view. You're entitled to yours, but I'm trying to understand it. Give them an opportunity to speak. See what comes out. Try and listen without turning bright red. I know I couldn't do it, but I appreciate you wanting to try. Oh, did you hear about the near miss plane crash in Chicago? Was that the Southwest plane that was coming? I don't know if that was, I didn't know where it happened, but I did see video earlier today of a Southwest plane coming down for a landing. Nearly the wheels were touching down, and then a private plane was crossing their path at the same time. And then so the Southwest plane, instead of landing, just took off again. But guess who just landed a contract with the FAA? SpaceX. So guess who is continuing to profit off of the chaos that they are creating? Elon Musk. All right, I'm going to take two more. Question. Are you going to interview, and it's Roland Martin, about his independent Black Star media? Can all the independent media cooperate to have a 24/7 coverage? Do you appear on his show? Back in the day, I used to appear on Roland's show. I haven't in many years. I think that he has been one of the best. He's been a trailblazer in independent media ever since he left CNN. And I think that what he's doing and has been doing with Black Star Media is incredible. I would absolutely love to connect with more very big, influential independent media personalities, because I do think that there could be more coordination, particularly around those of us with like-minded views. Maybe it is, around like big events like the upcoming State of the Union, which I think is going to be an absolute shit show. So maybe that is an opportunity. Last question that I will take today. Love you, Danielle, from Hank to Skank. You're almost at 15K. What's your exact number right now? Let's look. Let's look and see. Because I know that you guys only see the point, whatever. I am currently at 14,932 subscribers. If you are watching right now and you have not subscribed, what does that look like? That I am 68 subscribers away from 15,000. So I'm just 68 subscribers away from 15,000. So if you are watching this right now and you have not subscribed, you can help me get me over the hump. Maybe it'll happen today. If not, hopefully it happens tomorrow. Thank you, Hank, for that question. And I just want to Shout out again the folks that donated today. I know that everyone does not have the resources to be able to donate, and so I appreciate literally every single dollar that comes in. Thank you guys so much. And again, if you have not liked, commented, or subscribed, please do so. And it helps the algorithm. It helps me get into more people's feeds, and it helps us build a big community, because I'm hoping to hit 15,000 and then it's on to 20 and then on to 100, dear friends. Because honestly, by the end of this year, if freedom of the press still exists, my goal is to hit 100,000 followers. Can I do it? I don't know, but that's the fucking goal. Folks, I appreciate you all so very much. I love the opportunity on Tuesdays for us to be able to connect and for you all to be able to ask questions. Thank you, as always, for continuing to show up and connect with each other. I love the fact that you all are like building friendships in the live chat. And for those of you who watch the videos after, thank you so much for your continued commentary and your liking and your subscribing. I appreciate all of you and your continued encouragement. As always, power to the people, and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these extraordinarily, wildly dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will be back here tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. I will see you then. Be well and stay safe. Until tomorrow.